we're gonna get a Lutron Claro installed. I think I'm gonna do the gray one just because it's kind of neat looking. Now there are diagrams for either the load side or the line side, or you know, a lot of people would say this one's closer to the bulb and this one's a little further away. There's diagrams for doing this, but I'm going to do it here today. Now this switch, it comes with actually 5 different cables on it. And there's a few things you need to check before you really get into this one. So that's why I've opened up both of these switches already. Number one, you're going to have a neutral in the box. This is required for the Lutron Claro. If you don't have a neutral, what you might want to look at instead is a Diva. That's actually something that could work. Something you should always do before you get started is test. Make sure that there's no power in your box. I have a cable, so I can always tell that I don't have power in the box. That's easy for me to tell. You can buy an accessory switch, which gives you a little bit more of smart features, but you can do it with an existing switch too. Now I've opened up this one. Just see that you have good room in the box, because what's gonna happen is you're gonna add, they've given, as I believe the number is 4 or 5 of these, and you're gonna add pretty much all of those in. So there's, you know, there's all these end caps. And the other thing you should know is if you do have some of these wire nuts already laying around, you want to use those instead of what Lutron has given you, make sure you're checking how many cables at what size can be used with these, or else that might not fit your cables. Today when we look at this switch, what you're going to notice is one of your cables down here, it's attached to a different color screw, okay? And this usually refers to the load side of things. Now this cable you're going to want to mark, because we have to know what this cable is throughout our series. Okay, now I have a fairly good electrician who made these up for me, so when I look in my box I can actually tell this cable is the same as this cable right here. So I know that going into this, and you kind of got to know that as well. Now this cable, it's going to get connected to a specific wire here. The white is going to go to your neutral. That's already kind of set aside. The green is going to go to your ground. Now you can always, or almost always, tell your ground, because here it is, it's bare copper. And there will always be, or most of the time in an existing house, you're going to have that bare copper, or you know, depending on your country, you might have a different color set aside for a ground wire like that. So that's the easy one to kind of start with and get connected here. But I've got to bend this, so I'm using pliers like this. In general, I like to use pliers that don't have teeth on them to bend wires like this. Otherwise, you can kind of just start to break down your cables, and then they become easier to break. And you want to get that about as straight as you can, because we're going to take a wire nut and we're going to take our switch and we're going to line them up. Now, once you get the two lined up, now you just twist until you start to feel it catch. And then you're going to twist and twist and twist until the wires wrap around each other a couple of times. It should be very easy with copper. So there you go, or with bare copper, sorry. All right, we're done one. Probably shouldn't have all this other stuff around. So I have that attached, and I took this one off first just because I thought, you know, that's going to be a little bit easier to manage. And what you're going to do with this is you're going to connect it with the black wire on your Lutron switch. Now you'll notice that this cable coming out of my box is threaded. And that can actually be a little bit tricky to work with. I'm just going to straighten out my switch from the Lutron Claro here. When you're kind of working with these wire nuts, what you want to do is you want to start a little bit higher with the threaded cable versus your other one. Get them both in that wire nut and then you start to twist. And that threaded one will actually wrap much easier in almost every case around the solid core. That's what these are called. They're called solid core wires. So this can help you to just get a good connection there. Again, you're getting it to wrap around itself a couple of times. That can be very helpful. Now, the next stage in this is to take these other two cables off, and they're going to be wired to other parts of the Claro. But we actually get to make that choice. Okay, now we're setting that aside. What we've got to choose here is, okay, which ones do we want to connect to the blue wire? Now, in my head, you know, red goes with red. So I'm going to do red to red. Need another wire nut. Get them together, get them up there, do a twist, get it started. You'll start to feel that tension, and you know, I'm still twisting, and they haven't started wiring or winding around each other on the jacket. I call that the jacket or the insulation. And it's going to be a little tougher, but now I'm getting it to wrap around a little bit. That's good enough for what I'm doing. Now I'm going to do this other black cable, and it's going to the blue wire. This has to be remembered because we have to make some modifications over here. So we're going to twist. Here we go. Okay. That one's making a good connection. I can feel that starting to bond in there, and yeah, I've got twisting happening on the jacket right here. So we can see things are going well. Okay, we've got one last cable. This is gonna be tough. This is never easy. So here's my two neutral wires. I'm gonna undo the wire nut on them. You might have them wired in to another switch, and you can see that one of mine are threaded. That actually makes this a little bit easier, actually. I forgot that. 3 solid core wires are pretty tough. Now, this is threaded, so you kind of twist that into a solid core wire. There you go. It's making a good long strain. Now we're going to get these 3 lined up, and this is where you have to make sure that your wire nut can handle this much. Now again, the solid core wires, I'm going to get them close together, kind of bent in the same direction if you can, because that wire nut is only so wide. And then I'm going to get that, and again the thread is a little bit higher. Get it on there securely and start to twist. I can feel my threaded going around things. It's making things much easier to get these twisted around each other. If you had 3 solid cores, you're gonna have some difficulty there. You're gonna have to have the strongest hands of all time. Okay, we've actually wired up this switch entirely. We could put everything back in the box, and then we can start here. Now, Lutron gave us this for the purposes of this, but I'm going to talk about this situation right here a little bit. One of the things you need to really know before you get into this box and you start working with this is, can I fit everything in? And as we've been doing this wiring, I've been trying to make sure that I'm not crossing wires over each other. See how the black and the blue here, it's pretty split out. This double black connection, okay, that's pretty split out too. The ground is a little bit over some things. That one's fairly easy to mold or to move around, but my red is also fairly free and clear. And I have this space over here to kind of tuck things away. So I have a little extra space in the box. If you don't have enough space to do this, it's not happening. And that's actually the biggest thing I've run into with the Lutron switches, is that you can run out of space very quickly. Now, one of the tricks that I use, and I don't know that your friendly electrician will tell you to do this, but this switch, it's now close, but even if I had it like way up here, what I would do is I would grab a couple of my screws, and if you can get it started, you can probably pull down very slowly, very carefully, pushing in the switch a little bit at a time. You can kind of pull it down with these screws. But if you're really ranking on this thing, or it's really pushing up this way, this isn't a good method, because you'll just pull things out of the wall. So don't necessarily do this, but you can use it as a little bit of leverage, or I find you can. And you know, in this case, it's probably going to go the last 5% for me. That's how I'm going to use it. Now, one of the things I will tell you is you want this switch to be flush on both sides at the same time. That can be very difficult to achieve, so go kind of 90% while you're holding the switch down, and that'll help you. So got it to about 90% in there. My gaps are good, they're even along here. I can check my base plates very quickly. Things are looking pretty good. Actually, alignment is really good, and I don't have huge gaps on this side, so everything feels pretty good there. Okay, let's deal with this over here. Now, we know that this cable right here, this is the one that we disconnected first and attached that, I believe that was to the black wire over here. We know that because it's connected to that black screw. Now what we have to do is we have to actually connect a couple of wires together with this yellow cable that they gave us. So we just have to be exact in which cables are doing what in this. This cable we always have to remove. This one is always coming off. Okay? All right, there we go. That one's off. Great. Now the color wire that we connected to the blue over here was black. So we know it's this wire. That one remains connected, and what we do is we take the other cable off, ignoring your ground wire. You're gonna wanna leave the ground wire on if you've got one in your box. If you don't, that happens sometimes. So now I've taken those two off. You don't have to worry about your neutral that's hiding in here either, okay? Don't think about that. And then we're gonna take this cable and we're gonna connect these three wires together with a wire nut. So I'm gonna get them all straightened away. There we go. And I've got 3 solid cores, so this is gonna be a little bit painful for me. Thanks a lot. Single solid core cables. not an enjoyable experience for me to twist this on. So you're gonna get the 3 of them as closely aligned as you can and at the same heights. There we go. Now, this yellow wire, yeah, I didn't get it right. There we go. Okay. Oh, I lost my yellow keeps coming off. Keeps coming out. Oh man, that's tough. That's tough. But you gotta get it. So remove anything. You can't really grip it with pliers. You can't really do anything. This is honestly just a hand strength exercise. I'm gonna take a minute, get this done. Now the electricians would get mad at me for this. I'm sure of it. Electricians get mad at you for everything you do that isn't their way. My best friends are electricians. Don't at me. Okay, now what you're doing is then you're putting this yellow cable in to that different colored screw, and this is your last connection. Now if you get it in here, you might need to fight with that a bit. You're trying not to leave anything exposed in terms of bare conductor. And there you go. Now we can fit everything back in the box. This one's going to be a little bit easier, hopefully. Although nothing's easy in life that's worth doing, is it? There you go. Yeah, that one was not too tough. Let's see, I've got some cable here on the side that is kind of, well, it's stopping me from getting this aligned right. So you gotta look at that. You're gonna have to fight with it for a little bit. And again, management of these cables is pretty important. So I'm gonna start by putting this wire nut as far down as I can and getting to a spot where I can bend these cables a little bit. It's pretty close. Pretty close, pretty close. I think we can work with this. Gonna get a couple of screws. And start that process. You know, I thought before I put this down, I would just test out my 3-way switch. So this is a dummy switch, don't pay attention to that. Now what should happen is on the Lutron, that's on, that's off, that's how this works. But in general, on a 3-way switch, if you ever change state on one of the switches, it will change the state of the bulb. So this is the action we want over here on this 3rd switch. You want that power to always change when you're changing this switch. And then on the Lutron one, up means it's gonna turn it on, and off means it's gonna turn it off. So that's exactly the action. So this isn't killing power anymore. That's the difference that you have with the Lutron Claro. So I really like that fact. You just have to know which way you're trying to go with the power on your Lutron switch. So we've proven that this works. Let me get this finalized, installed. I'll put the plates on. Okay, just gonna pull this over a bit. Now, in general, no tension is being placed on the switch or this. I'm kind of holding things down as I screw things in, but this can help pull things tight in the right way. And I'm generally holding this so that it's even on the box. It can be very helpful just to kind of get things aligned right so that things look right. And now it is pulling the whole switch a little bit down on this side. I'm not going to tighten that to 100%. I'm happy with that. Let's put our plate on. Check it out. That's looking right. And there we go. Okay. And you just got these to put in. And we're all done. Okay, so here we go. On, off, on, off. Doesn't matter if this starts on, the Lutron Claro can still control it. Obviously, we might want to look at a different faceplate and we might have to change that. And later we can replace this with a Pico remote. You can have Picos, you can have the Lutron accessory switch working with this. They have different installation methods, and you can always just change out how your switch behaves with one of those at any time. So we're just going in to the Lutron app. I'm going to get this set up. I got to have power to the switch, and then we're going to see what we get for new options. Now I already have a Lutron bridge in my home. You could have the Lutron bridge or the Lutron Pro level bridge. Now what are we adding? Well, we're adding an in-wall dimmer or switch. Press and hold the bottom button for 10 seconds. And we are adding this one. I should have done that before. There it goes, it's blinking fast. And now you can pick the room where it's located. I'm just gonna pretend it's in the office again. I'm gonna hit next, and okay, what are we controlling? Well, let's say we're controlling a sconce. We'll call that a sconce, that bulb over there. There, I'm done adding devices. Now it's called Office Sconces, and yes, it's in Amazon already. It's actually in Google as well. We just don't get a notification. And now we will have the on and off feature of this. Let me just back out the old desk here. There you go. Okay. Off, on. There you go. Pretty easy, simple control. All right. Now, I'm gonna bring that back up. We'll go into edit device because you do get a couple of things here. You can change the name, the room, and the type of device that you're using it with. So if you ever move this, don't worry. You can change all those things. You can also change the icon that's associated with it. But there is a little LED right here. Whether or not you want that to be on or off when the lights are on. So now I can hit off, and that is no longer going to light up. If I want it to be on, there it goes. It's just a little light, but in the dark you may see that. Now in the past, when lights are off, the status LED is off or on. This doesn't actually seem to change anything, and I wouldn't expect it to. So even when I go to on, like that did not come on, and it's off at the moment. So that little setting doesn't really do much. You can also set scenes with multiple of your lights. So if you wanted, you know, multiple switches to bring on lighting a certain way, create those scenes, and you can create schedules out of this. That's probably the more likely thing you'll want to do. So we'll call it morning lighting, morning light. There we go. Which days do we want? You can uncheck which days. You can hit next, and then you can pick, okay, maybe I just want sunrise or sunset. So we'll say at sunrise, and I can make adjustments before or after sunrise. Okay, I'm going to go a little bit before. I'm going to say an hour before sunrise. I want which of my lights to go on. Now my main lights in my office, if I pick those are the Diva. I can pick that they're on at 100%, or I can move through the different percentage brightness. I can add those or not, and I can pick, so I can choose on or off. Now obviously probably want that on, and maybe we want our office lights to be on. There we go. We've just set that as a schedule, and we can make that adjustment later. If we want to go back in, we can make adjustments to what's going on, and we can test the event. You can see, turn that on. The scenes are really a very similar thing, so we'll just call this the Lutron scene. I'll call it 1. We'll go next, And again, you can just set these different statuses that you would like. There, we've created the scene. It's called Lutron Scene 1. In some cases, that will synchronize with other systems, so like Amazon, that should happen. And then just when I press that, that's turning on that scene for me. So you can see this bulb is going on as I press that. So that's a way to control multiple devices all at the same time very quickly.